It's November 2022, and the results of the presidential election have divided Brazil. Thousands of supporters of the far-right former president Jair Bolsonaro are upset that he's lost to his bitter rival, left-wing Lula. Believing the unsubstantiated claim that the election results are fraudulent, Bolsonaro's supporters cluster in camps in front of military barracks around Brazil. They are attempting to prompt a coup. Soon, more than 100 camps pop up around the country. Each one is full of people who call themselves patriots and wear Brazil's yellow and green football shirts, protesting against the result of the democratic election.
E a seleção brasileira tem uniforme B, né, que é azul.
And the Brazilian team has an away shirt, which is the blue and white. I was wearing the shirt they wear, with the colors they identify with, and I was there among them. I didn't feel afraid.
This is someone we're going to call Pedro. He asked us not to use his real name. He's a Lula supporter.
Naquele dia eu estava indo para o trabalho, eu estava indo dar aula.
That day I was going to work, I was going to teach, but my class had been cancelled because of that so-called demonstration, right? So I ended up staying there, watching the absurdity up close. I started recording it to show it to my friends and make fun of them.
When he stepped into the camp, Pedro pretended to be a so-called patriot. He saw posters asking for military intervention, heard conspiracy theories about the election, drank some free water, and then decided to troll them in real life.
Não, eu cheguei a fazer uma transmissão no Instagram.
I actually did an Instagram live broadcast for my friends. A friend of mine commented, "Why don't you spread some fake news among them?" At that moment, I thought it would be cool trying to learn something that they use against them, which is disinformation, absurd news.
Pedro remembered some viral fake news he had seen on WhatsApp. He decided to test it out offline, shouting that the president of the Superior Electoral Court had been arrested, a claim which was entirely false. But the self-proclaimed patriot went crazy.
E aí eu contei, o pessoal começou
I told them, and people started commenting. I heard the comment going from one person to another, and then there were fireworks, people shouting. I was like, my God, these people, they were detached from the reality of facts. They believe in what suits, as if the arrest of a Supreme Court minister was that simple, as if it were a process as quick as instant noodles. I don't believe it was fake news, because a normal person would understand that it is absurd, that it was a joke, but Bolsonarism is so disconnected from reality that they cannot check the information.
That was the beginning of a series of trollagem, the Portuguese noun created from the English verb to troll. In Portuguese, it has taken on the meaning of making fun.
Trolling in Brazil comes from both the left and the right. But as you'll hear today, it's led not only to jokes and ridicule, but also to dangerous disinformation, which has rocked the country's democracy. I'm Jonathan Griffin, and this is BBC Trending. In our Trolled series, we're exposing how trolling is polluting digital discourse around the world, resulting in real-life consequences. Joining me is Juliana Gragnani.
Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, Juliana.
Today we're going to look at how trolling has evolved to become a central feature in Brazil's political discourse. It's worth pointing out that over the years, the Brazilian right wing has gathered a reputation for being internet savvy, dominating meme culture and the debate on social media platforms, including by spreading disinformation and trolling. Fabio Malini, coordinator of the Laboratory of Studies of Image and Cyberculture at the Federal University of Espírito Santo, says that Bolsonaro had built an engaged base of followers on social media because they had been organizing themselves before the 2018 election. The left, on the other hand, was more fractured. Until 2022, that is. In one of the dirtiest campaigns in the country's young democracy, some important left-wing figures decided to fight back with the same disinformation tactics used by the right. Both sides made accusations against each other that even strayed into cannibalism and Satanism. On Twitter, left-wing Congressman André Janones encouraged supporters of left-wing presidential candidate Lula to make Bolsonaro taste his own poison. He led the way, writing a series of ambiguous or misleading posts attacking the far-right president on religious grounds, among others. His posts got millions of views, and left-wing influencers followed suit, even naming his method cultural janonismo, in a reference to his last name. The congressman told us why he defends this strategy, denying he ever shared false information.
The extreme right creates the debates. I'm not pretending to be dumb here. I'm using the same modus operandi as them. I'm aware of what I'm doing, but I'm convinced that for democracy, it's worth it. I don't like to use the weapons I'm using, but in a war, if my opponent is pointing a rifle at me, it is not possible to offer him a flower.
On this same battlefield was another man named Fernando Cermedo.
Okay, sí, soy Fernando Cermedo, CEO de...
I am Fernando Cermedo, CEO of Numen Publicidad de la República Argentina. We also have offices in Chile, Ecuador, and the United States. I am mainly a political consultant. Among the clients that we have had over the years, most of them have been right-wing clients.
In a moment, we'll explain why this Argentine is crucial to understanding the fallout from Brazil's 2022 election. But first, we should explain Cermedo's backstory.
For 12 years, Cermedo has marketed right-wing ideas and candidates across Latin America and the US on behalf of dozens of clients. He has built a significant reputation.
Cermedo's website says that he has used exclusive technological resources for the positioning and communication of candidates in 50 electoral campaigns.
But when we talked about the lengths he has gone to promoting right-wing campaigns over the years, he was much more frank. He admits that in 2015, he used to create fake news to support campaigns he was working on, a tactic he says he has since stopped. He doesn't want to say which campaigns he created fake news for.
In
2015, this was commonplace. It was fun. But then we realized that it ends up being a problem. People have evolved a lot. We citizens have evolved.
While he may have cleaned up this aspect of his campaigning, Cermedo says he still uses a troll farm to make social media posts flourish.
Trolls are necessary, and I'm going to explain why. We have a troll farm, a lot of them. What we don't use are bots. Bots are different things. You can buy it in India and they give you 10,000 likes in a second. That doesn't work because it's not legitimate. What we do, for example with trolls, is to generate some kind of relevance within the social networks algorithms. They have become very rigid about what they show and what they don't. And that has to do with the relevance of that publication. So, what trolls do is give relevance to a certain publication, good publicity, so that it can be shown more than other publications.
The trolls on Cermedo's troll farm are fake profiles, which he says he uses to boost engagement on social media platforms. This is against most social media platforms' rules. He denies that his troll farm is immoral because he says it doesn't hurt anyone. He also says in recent years he's switched from using real-life strangers' pictures as the faces of his fake profiles to using AI-generated pictures.
In 2018, Cermedo says he was hired by a group of businessmen who wanted his involvement in shaping the presidential election in Brazil. We asked him who the individuals were, but he declined to tell us and refused to provide evidence that it happened. The far-right presidential candidate Jair Bolsonaro was struggling to attract lesbian, gay, bisexual, and trans voters after he made a number of anti-LGBTQ+ comments. Cermedo says he was asked by the group to run a campaign on WhatsApp aimed at sharing some of Bolsonaro's proposals with a community that might not want to hear from him. WhatsApp played a big role in the 2018 elections in Brazil. Disinformation spread like wildfire across the large groups on the platform. Bolsonaro's ticket was investigated for supposed mass messaging through WhatsApp in 2018. But in 2021, judges ruled there wasn't enough evidence to revoke his mandate for it.
I don't remember if it was companies that did it or activists. They started collecting information about people with homosexual orientation, the LGBT community, so that we could send them information in a different way.
Ceremedo claims he sent messages to phone numbers belonging to up to 5 million genuine Brazilians.
So, with WhatsApp accounts, we send them information saying, yes, it was outrageous what he said, because it was outrageous in practical terms what he had actually said. But the economy is going to improve. He has other ideas about other things as well. Just trying to carry information to them that wasn't reaching them.
Now, it's worth saying that we've spoken to an electoral lawyer who says it was an electoral offense to do mass messaging for political campaigning through WhatsApp in 2018. Also, if this messaging did happen, it could be considered a donation to Bolsonaro's campaign, and it is illegal for companies to donate to political campaigns. We approached Ceremedo for comment on this. He said the action was citizen and amateur and wasn't part of Bolsonaro's official campaign. He also says he didn't violate any law.
We approached Bolsonaro's team for comment about the supposed WhatsApp messaging campaign. They did not respond.
Ceremedo was desperate to get himself involved in the 2022 election campaign, but he says he wasn't contracted to work for Bolsonaro or any other politician.
I wanted to offer my services, and in fact, I'm not going to deny it to you. I tried to offer my services in Brazil. There is an issue that is the language barrier.
He may not have been officially contracted to work for anyone for the most recent Brazilian election, according to what he said, but that's not to say that Ceremedo sat back in Buenos Aires with his feet up watching the election unfold on TV without any involvement at all.
On October 31st, the results of the Brazilian presidential election were announced. The result was close, but Lula won with 50.9% of the vote, spreading joy and hope amongst his supporters.
Many Bolsonaro supporters, on the other hand, were crestfallen and angry. Into their online discontentment stepped Ceremedo. Just 5 days after the election results were announced, Ceremedo recorded a live stream on YouTube in which he claimed there were problems with older voting machines. He alleged they registered more votes favouring Lula.
Ceremedo's allegations were false. All voting machines, including older ones, had passed security tests before the elections, according to the Superior Electoral Court, the highest body of the Brazilian electoral justice system. They also published the results of those tests online. There's a series of procedures in place to secure the vote, and there has never been evidence of fraud since the electronic voting machines were introduced nationally in Brazil in 1996. Although Ceremedo's live stream contained a fake allegation, it went viral. At the time, it was watched by more than 400,000 people. Ceremedo also runs a right-wing online news site that has attracted the support of Jair Bolsonaro and features articles with titles such as "Lula should have come out to clarify that he has never spoke or made a pact with the devil." After his election live stream, Ceremedo's site devoted a number of articles to it. Ceremedo exposed the latest evidence of electoral fraud in Brazil worldwide, read one headline.
The live stream, along with dozens of other false allegations of fraud from various sources, appeared to stir Bolsonaro supporters, some of whom set up the camps we described at the top of this episode. Bolsonaro's party added further fuel to the fire by publicly challenging the results of the election and the voting machines, in a case quickly dismissed by Brazil's electoral authority. They noted a total absence of any evidence of irregularities. Just a month later, Bolsonaro left Brazil and moved to a gated community in Florida.
Despite his absence, the camps outside the military barracks continued. Together, his supporters sang, marched, ate churrasco, which is barbecue, and made passionate speeches against the then president-elect Lula and the president of the Superior Electoral Court, Alexandre de Moraes. The camps became a fertile ground for the spread of misinformation.
This is the sound of a camp celebrating fake news that went viral on WhatsApp, claiming the Superior Electoral Court had found a serious mistake in election results. Several videos showed the same phenomenon. Patriots celebrating fake news in real life.
Day after day, they kept believing election results would be cancelled or that the Brazilian armed forces would intervene because of a supposed fraud, even after Lula had taken office. When that didn't happen, they decided to take matters into their own hands.
After 70 days camping to protest against the election results, thousands of Bolsonaro supporters travelled to the capital, Brasilia, and stormed the presidential palace, Congress, and the Supreme Court.
Total chaos in Brasilia as thousands of hardline protesters invaded government buildings, authorities responding with tear gas to try and regain control of Brazil's capital.
Among the Telegram channels which had pushed for the invasion were several using Fernando Serramedo's name as the title, sharing regular blasts of disinformation about the election. Some called for seizure of power by the people.
Serramedo says he's not behind those problematic channels, pointing to the fact that his own Telegram channel was suspended on November 15th by Brazil's Superior Electoral Court. He distanced himself from the events that took place in Brasilia.
There is not video of mine, no publication of mine saying that they should go and do that barbarity on January 8th. I knew that this could happen. I'm not going to encourage them to do that barbarity.
The invasion itself stunned the whole country. People stopped in their tracks to watch on TV as rioters destroyed windows, documents, and artworks from government buildings in Brasilia. This is Isis Passos, a public servant from southern Brazil.
It was shocking. We ran to the telephone and made a group call to talk about it. What shocked us most were the paintings, the artworks. As artists, this hurts a lot. It hurts the soul. This will go into history as a great embarrassment.
4 years ago, when Bolsonaro's government started, Isis, her sister, and her parents started using their free time to compose carnival music, making fun of the president and his supporters. Their videos went viral. In January, while the patriots were still camping outside military barracks, they made this song, roughly translated as "Patriot Idiots." The song says, "Communism will kill us, we'll have dogs for lunch, and the churches will close."
These were all notorious fake news stories spread by Bolsonaro supporters during the campaign. That Lula would implement communism in Brazil, and that communist countries have dogs for lunch. Targeting the evangelical vote, Bolsonaro supporters also claimed, without evidence, that if Lula won, he would close down churches.
After a period of left-wing trolling, things are calming down for the family. Some of the people they mocked have gone quiet. After the riots in Brazil, authorities arrested 1,400 people, dismantled all patriot camps around the country, and closed down a number of online groups that were questioning the elections.
But in March, Bolsonaro left the US, returning to Brazil and reigniting trolling from both ends of the political spectrum.
Hundreds of Bolsonaro supporters went to greet him at the airport, using social media to say they were going to take back Brazil from the hands of murderous gangs and scoundrels.
Meanwhile, their opponents mocked them, sharing pictures of cattle, calling them a herd of patriots.
So, far from receding after the election, it looks like trolling has embedded itself in the center of Brazil's political discourse for the foreseeable future.
That's it for this episode. My thanks to Juliana Gragnani. Our editor was Flora Carmichael. If you want a message trending with your thoughts on this, or any of our other episodes, then you can email me. It's jonathan.griffin@bbc.co.uk. Thank you for listening.